It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe. Thank you for joining us and, as always, for following along with all of our original programming and the latest news and information across the greater West Bloomfield community on CivicCenterTV.com, on Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, and on YouTube at Civic Center TV. As we are in the post-election phase here in Greater West Bloomfield. Election day, a very busy day out and about across the entirety of the Greater West Bloomfield area and every single one of our precincts. Our team was hard at work out in the field as well and still are on this post-election Wednesday. Jake Schaff joins us now live from out in the field at Orchard Lake City Hall with more information on the voters and their process on that Tuesday election day.
Hey, Tyler, good morning. I'm standing live outside of Orchard Lake City Hall, one of the many polling locations for all across Greater West Bloomfield, where many voters came out to make their voices heard and to cast their ballot, not only for the big presidential race that's been going on, but also for the local elections that, as some of these residents explained, are just as important.
I think the local elections are extremely important because that's the grassroots. So that is the micro. The national elections are the macro. So they're both very important.
Yeah, I mean, I think people fail to realize how important the smaller elections are as well. I mean, you're voting for people that take care of your city, take care of your schooling, community. So I think those are just as big as well.
Every single vote counts, and everyone wants to do their part in making a difference, including some residents who are voting for the very first time this year, and explained how important it is to finally take part in the democratic process.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to get my opinion out there. I mean, I think it's a huge thing as an American just to share your opinion. I mean, people fight and argue all the time, but this is really where it matters. So I'm glad to be able to share my opinion.
You know, I've been hearing how to vote. I didn't know the proper way to vote. I thought it was just one way or the other, but there's lots of wonderful candidates. There's wonderful supporters out here today, and I've been really educated. I've learned how it works. I've learned how far people will go to support the candidates that they believe in, and again, just glad to be out here today.
It can be a very exciting feeling to vote in your very first election. But I think a lot of us can agree that after several months of political news, we all could use a break from the onslaught of political ads all over the media.
Oh man, I am so, the election's been booming for the past months now, and I'm just ready for, yes, the ads to be over and really just to kind of move on, get over the subject. Whoever gets in, but let's just move on and help America grow ultimately. Instead of the division between fighting Republican or Democrat, let's just unite as one.
Yeah, honestly, I enjoy the debates and stuff. I think it's pretty interesting hearing both sides of the story, both aspects. I personally enjoy it. I like more of the debates. But I guess, yeah, it's kind of nice to have the stress and get the final answer you're looking to get.
The first thing I said to anybody today was, at the end of today, we don't have to hear any more of those commercials or get any more of the text messaging. It's way out of control. And it's got to do a lot of it with the money that they raise, which is why I don't believe they should raise money. I think elections should all be publicly financed. They should be given a specific amount of money, spend it how you will, and that's it.
Needless to say, there's going to be a lot of activity going on in the next few months now that these election results are finally in, and it's going to be very curious to see how the community responds and how the community goes forward with the results that come in. Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff, live outside of Orchard Lake City Hall. Back to you, Tyler.
Appreciate the report, Jake, from live out in the Tri-Cities after a very busy Tuesday in Greater West Bloomfield as our local residents made their decisions on very critical races, both at the national level and at the local level as well, all having a major impact on the future of our community and beyond. Also, another member of our team out and about on Election Day in West Bloomfield, getting more information from voters on their excitement for the end of the election season, their participation in this election, and a little bit of an inside look at the processes that went on Election Day at Town Hall. Kevin McIntosh with us now live at West Bloomfield Town Hall with more. Kevin.
Thank you, Tyler. With Election Day finally over, voters and election workers alike both reflect on what made this democratic process so vital. I actually had an opportunity to speak with one voter who explained why voting on Election Day was so important. And we spoke with an election worker to explain what they learned behind the scenes. Here's a look at their perspective on Election Day.
Election Day in West Bloomfield saw residents showing up at precincts across the area eager to participate in this pivotal moment. For many, casting a ballot in person on Election Day carries a special significance.
Well, if you want change, the only way to make change is to cast your vote, because your voice carries a weight.
Even after participating in previous elections, experienced voters express how this election may be no different from others, but the anticipation remains the same.
It's not so much what's different, it's what's at hand. If my candidate wins, then the country goes back to normalcy. If my candidate loses, then lots of things could happen, none of which I want to think about.
Working on the ground on Election Day, Sue Goodman offered insight into a campaign worker's experience and what she's learned throughout the process.
It was great. I took a class in election law, so I was able to tell people that they could get an absentee ballot and not stand in line and all those kinds of things. So it's been extremely cordial. You know, there haven't been any fights, there hasn't been any problems. Even people on the opposite side have been very cordial. So it's been a good experience.
As voters complete their civic duty, they leave with a sense of pride, knowing they've contributed to the democratic process.
Well, that's what democracy is all about. You know, if you don't vote, you can't complain. So it's really important to get out and vote, even if you don't know who you're voting for in the presidential part. Think about all of the people who are the judges and the school boards and your county executives. All those things are going to affect your personal life.
With votes cast and ballots counted, there was only one feeling that we all had after Election Day.
It feels good to have that monkey off my back.
And right now, I am live outside of the West Bloomfield Township Town Hall boardroom, where it was very, very busy scene last night. Election workers working hard, tallying up these ballots to make sure that they are counted accurately and safely. As a matter of fact, it was a busy scene last night as they were broken up into teams to count up the absentee ballots. I actually had a moment to speak with election specialist Paula Cummings, who explained to me how it worked a little bit last night. She explained that the absentee ballots were counted in this room. They were broken up into teams. The volunteer counter was broken up into teams and assigned to tables. Each table was counted or assigned 2 to 3 different precincts to make sure that they count the ballots accurately. Now, this was done, like we said, so it was done safely, securely, and efficiently. And Paula also went on to explain some different things to me that although we voted at different precincts, each precinct tabulated and counted those ballots right there on the scene. But currently, all ballots are right here at the town hall, securely placed in a room right now. And although the main counting wrapped up around 10 p.m. last night, there were some workers that were actually spending some time here. Paula says she spent some time making sure that the precinct ballots were balanced and, of course, had to do a little bit of cleaning up after the scene as well. So this just goes to show that the work that goes behind the scenes to make sure that the precinct is ensuring that we have a very safe, efficient, and accurate election day right here in our town hall. Thank you again, and back to you in the studio, Tyler.
Appreciate the report, Kevin. Live at West Bloomfield Town Hall after a very busy night there. I know from past elections, both the primaries, the midterm elections, and past presidential elections, that The AV Counter Board, that tends to be the last guard in West Bloomfield. They're out there until the very end of the process on election night, until every vote has been tabulated and every vote has been sent off to the county for those unofficial election results. And those unofficial election results available to you as we speak. Go to our website, civiccentertv.com. At the very top of the page, we have an image that will show you a ballot box and say, hey, click here for election results, and you'll be able to see those results as they have come in to Oakland County, with now 100% of precincts reporting across our local area. Plenty of those results making a big impact, too, in the greater West Bloomfield area directly. Some of the key races being called overnight across Michigan and the greater West Bloomfield area. Some of the up-ballot races that affect you close to home. In the U.S. House of Representatives, Haley Stevens, the incumbent Democrat in the 11th District, re-elected to her seat, defeating West Bloomfield's Nick Somberg with 58% of the vote in that race. From the U.S. House over to the Michigan House in the 20th District, representing West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Commerce, and the Lakes area. It is the 20th District. Noah Arbit securing his re-election over Republican challenger Brendan Cowley. That result decided by around 4,000 votes at the end of the evening. Representative Arbit received 53.14% support in that race. In Keego Harbor, the big issue on the ballot was whether or not to extend the police millage that was set to expire in 2026. In that race, it passed with flying colors. The extension passing with 73.11% of the Keego Harbor voting public voting in the affirmative. So that millage will be extended through 2034. Also in the Tri-Cities, an interesting proposal on the docket. Orchard Lake has for many years been served by a director of city services. Presently, that is Jerry McCallum in Orchard Lake. Now, the public voted with overwhelming 75.87% majority to change the title and redefine the responsibilities of that role, changing the title from Director of City Services to City Manager. This was done for a number of different reasons, and Calvin over at Master Control do have a video on that from Jerry McCallum, who had explained to Kevin McIntosh from our team previously about why that was a necessary change to have in Orchard Lake Village.
The purpose of that really is for several folds. Is one, there's some state treasury documents that I cannot sign because I don't have the title as a city manager. So we actually have to have our highest elected official, the mayor, sign. But also there's some state meetings that take place, or local meetings and county meetings that really nobody knows what a director does, but they know what a city manager does. Right. But more importantly is the fact that down the road here, I will be retiring someday. And I think that to have someone to come into this position would be much more apt to be a city manager. You'd get more qualified candidates, etc. Again, having that title.
Then arguably the most heavily contested race of them all, a tentpole issue we know in the Tri-Cities, was the future of the West Bloomfield School District Board of Education, with just 3 open seats on that board, 2 incumbents, as well as a couple of challengers going up for that 3rd seat as well. Incumbent Board Secretary Julie Beatty led the pack with over 7,000 votes, securing about 22% of the vote across the greater West Bloomfield area for the West Bloomfield School Board, followed closely by Dr. Nelson Hirsch with just 100 votes or so behind Julie in that race. So it all came down to that 3rd and final spot. For most of the night, a dead heat that ended with Kirsten Sonneville Douglas securing the final open seat over Ernestina Moore with 19.5% of the vote. That difference just over 100 votes per the Oakland County unofficial results. Joining us now on the Splash Live, as she has just been elected to the West Bloomfield School District Board of Education, is their newest board member, Kirsten Sonneville Douglas. Congratulations, Kirsten, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for having me, and thank you.
And I appreciate having you on because this was a process that started for you a while ago. You ran for a variety of different reasons to get onto this board. But now that you're on it, what are some of your goals as you get acclimated to this position and start to make some of that impact you were striving for throughout the campaign?
I'm looking forward to taking office in January. It doesn't happen immediately. I look forward to collaborating with the other board members on the Board of Education. But some of the things that are that I'm passionate about is transparency, making sure that we're showing the community how we're coming to our decisions, making sure that we are able to connect with our community. I think that that's something that's been missing as I've been attending all the board meetings for the last 4 years. As a person that comes to the meetings and sitting in public comment, I would like to see that dialogue. I would love to have that connection with my board members. And so I'm hoping to bring that to the board. I'm looking for some fiscal responsibility and helping moving our district out of the deficit that currently is happening. And then some other things with academics, making sure that we are striving to make sure that our students are receiving the best education.
And you have a unique perspective, too, because like many members of the board, past and present, they've either had their kids go through the district or they currently have kids in the district. And that the latter is the case for you, your son at West Bloomfield Middle School. So now how does his current experience as a student in the school district help to inform you as an incoming school board member of some things that maybe need to be addressed at the board level?
It's a great question. And also, I'll add one more thing. Heather, I'm a graduate of West Bloomfield. Right? So I'm committed. So I've been there. My daughter attended in middle school and part through high school. And then my son currently is now in the middle school. I am very active in the schools, starting in elementary school and now in the middle school. And so I get to see what's happening just firsthand. And so I want to help make some changes, whether it's safety in the middle school right now, making sure that our staff feel supported. They have only so many hours a day and we're asking them to wear so many hats. And so how can we help them be successful? And then that leads to our students be successful.
And it's interesting, too, because we have so many connections to the election process here in the greater West Bloomfield area from this cycle. Michelle Lakeman, a West Bloomfield High School student, one of the many across the state that had their I voted stickers in our polling locations on Tuesday and throughout the election process. And you got out in the field with your family, with your husband, Kevin, with your son, Keaton, throughout the campaign process and the election process. What was that experience like for you to be able to take, particularly your son, through kind of the back end of what we see when we hear about these elections every 4 years and every 2 years for those midterms?
It's Civics 101, right? It's real life social studies, and to show that every vote matters. And with this election and my race specifically, every vote mattered. And it's showing him that we are public servants. I believe our family leads by example with having a servant heart. And so I'm just very proud of him, learning how this whole process works and being able to be that leader for him.
Showing by example. You're also a staple of the Keego Harbor Parks and Recreation, as your husband is with the Planning Commission in the city of Keego Harbor. Very involved family in the Tri-Cities. But you made a point, too, throughout this election process, very similarly to other candidates also, but in particular, we'd see you at a lot of these West Bloomfield meetings, the Keego Harbor meetings, even in Sylvan Lake at a lot of these other events, really spreading throughout the entirety of the greater West Bloomfield area to get to know all corners of West Bloomfield. Why was that an important point for you to make as you went through the campaign, win or lose, to get to know all ends of our community?
I live in Keego Harbor. I grew up in Orchard Lake. But this is the greater West Bloomfield, right? And I always use great in capital letters. I am going to be on the board for all of the students, all the staff for the greater West Bloomfield district. And it's important for them to understand the candidates and to get to know me. Yes, I'm very involved and I got started in my own community, but have a broader reach. And I'm hoping that I get to connect ongoing with the greater West Bloomfield community as well.
Well, Kirsten, we appreciate you taking some time this morning to talk to us about your election to the West Bloomfield School District Board of Education. Before we let you go, anything else that you'd like to say to the public as they've voted you into this key position in our local area?
I want to congratulate Julie and Nick on their win as well. I want to congratulate Tina and Terry for running an amazing campaign. I enjoyed getting to know them during this whole process, and it takes a community. I'm a candidate, but I have an amazing support system, and so I wouldn't be here without them. So I do want to acknowledge them, and Tyler, for you and your staff as well, for always making sure that you're keeping our community up to date. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate your time, Kirsten. Congratulations once again, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Kirsten Sonneville Douglas in January will become the newest member of the West Bloomfield School District Board of Education, joining the 2 incumbent candidates, also securing those other two of 3 spots on the board, and Julie Beatty and Dr. Nelson Hirsch, who will be returning to the board along with the other members. The only current board member not returning is, of course, Carol Finkelstein, who decided not to run for re-election as she's now on the Oakland Schools Board of Education. Want to remind you again that all of these election results are available to you as we speak. Simply go over to civiccentertv.com. We have a link at the very top of our homepage that will take you directly to the Oakland County unofficial results page. Now, I want to clarify something, because I'm saying unofficial results. You'll see on that page Oakland County unofficial election results. The reason it's called unofficial is because the votes get tabulated in all roughly 500 precincts across Oakland County. They're sent to Oakland County where they're recorded and then reported, and that's why you see a certain percentage of precincts reporting overnight on election night, and in this case, very early into this Wednesday in Greater West Bloomfield. Later on, another process goes through the Oakland County Board of Canvassers. It gets certified. It goes to the state for certification as well, and at that point, those election results go from unofficial to official. So those checks, those balances, those redundancies that keeps our elections secure and moving forward. Other key local elections that had results overnight in Greater West Bloomfield. The Library Board, 6 seats available on the West Bloomfield Library Board for those open positions. Mostly incumbents going back on the board in this case. 5 out of the 6 are incumbent candidates that made on the board are incumbents. Carol Kravitz, with 15.69% of the vote, led the pack in that race. Closely followed with 14.36% of the vote by Rhonda Barnes Orr. One of the newest members of the West Bloomfield Library Board is actually coming over from a familiar capacity with us here at the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission, as she's outgoing from that commission. Jennifer Taylor Boykins joins the West Bloomfield Library Board, securing 13.62% of the vote. In addition, 3 more incumbent candidates returning to the Library Board after this election. Karen Eichmeyer, just over 13% of the vote going her way in this election. Michael Dorfman, 12.91%. And finally, the final board member of those 6 to rejoin after this most present election, Raman Singh, with 11.01% of the vote. Those are your 6 library board members that will be joining after this 2024 election. Similar situation in the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission, 7 seats open in that race in West Bloomfield. The only non-incumbent candidate to secure a spot happened to also be the candidate securing the majority of those votes. It was Amy Mindell joining the board, replacing Vincent Kirkwood, who's now moving over to the West Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees. She secured 13.16% of the vote, closely followed in that race at 12.76% by David Barish. Chairperson Robert V. Brooks was reelected with 12.66% of the vote going his way. The other 4 candidates reelected. Also, the remaining incumbents, Merv Aronoff with 12.64%, Sally Wenzel with 12.56%, Treasurer Terrence T. Adams with 12.54%, and finally, Board Secretary John Erick reelected with 12.41% of the vote going his way. Again, all of those election results and more local races, whether you're looking in Greater West Bloomfield or maybe some of your friends and your neighbors, some of those key races in other areas, you can find those all through the Oakland County unofficial results page. A link to that at the top of our homepage on civiccentertv.com. Well, as we speak about those new Parks and Recreation Commission members, they do a lot to support many really fun events, partnering with a number of organizations from across the Greater West Bloomfield area and beyond. Those include organizations like Bees in the D. And if you love honey, you got a great chance to taste a variety of different flavors and different textures and different arrangements with honey coming up with West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation. That's going on later on this month, November 16th, a Saturday at Marshbank Park at their lodge, a Honey Sommeliers event and with the American Honey Tasting Society and Bees in the D, whose founder, Brian Peterson Roast, joins us now on the Splash Live. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Always great to be with you.
Glad to have you on to talk about what you got coming up. A Honey Sommeliers event happening with West Bloomfield Parks at Marshbank Park. Let's just start off with how you partner with West Bloomfield Parks, because when we think of bees and we think of Greater West Bloomfield, we're really thinking about the summer season. They're out and they're flying around. They're sometimes kind of bugging us and we're trying to swat them away. People are afraid of them in some cases, but there's a special partnership between Bees in the D, West Bloomfield Parks, and those honeybees all throughout Greater West Bloomfield.
Yeah, West Bloomfield Parks has always been such a great supporter of us and our mission. And we do at Carner Farm, which is one of their locations, the dog park and the community garden is there. We have 4 hives. And so we get to do some really cool programs with the residents there in West Bloomfield and beyond, and including having Girl Scouts come out there and earn their beekeeping patch. So West Bloomfield Parks is a big part of that. And also we love to educate about all of our native bees, because you were talking about swatting and stuff like that. We also help identify the difference between bees and wasps, because a lot of times those ones we are swatting are wasp and not bees at all. But yes, we have a really unique event coming up very soon.
That event coming up on November 16th at the Lodge at Marshbank Park. It's a Saturday event. Registration is open, $110 for residents and $130 for non-residents. And Brian, it's a little bit pricey, it seems, on paper, but you're learning a lot about the process that goes into making this honey and the special processes behind the scenes that make honey kind of that specialty that it's become in recent years. So take us through it. What are people going to learn? Why is this really a unique opportunity for people right here in Greater West Bloomfield?
Yeah, so this event is one that we normally do at larger hotels, like down in the Detroit area where we're headquartered. But man, honey is so undervalued in the United States. I mean, we think of it to dip our nuggets in, but actually honey throughout the world, because of the diversity of honey and the different flavors, the different colors, the different scent of honey is actually taught. And we imported in some Italian honeys, which are known as mono honeys. Meaning that they're from usually one source or one plant. I mean, they may go to a few other plants, but that gives that honey a very unique flavor, aroma. And so we took a class about a honey sommelier. I know when you think of sommelier, you think of wine, but honey is very similar in that. And we are going to have you taste. We're going to have you smell. We're going to help you understand your taste buds. And then a lot of fun at the end. Time and Honey, which is an incredible charcuterie company, is going to make individual little charcuteries for everybody, because then you're going to actually use some of those honeys, the ones from Italy, and we will have a few of our Detroit honey, including our highly sought after bourbon honey. And you'll get to experiment and use some of the different foods of a charcuterie to mix it with that honey. And you may have a honey that you're like, wow, this honey is bitter, actually bitter. But yet when I eat it with prosciutto or a meat, it changes it completely. And so we'll talk also about how to use honey with different foods and how to even cook with that honey. So it's a very unique event because we tend to undervalue honey here in America.
Brian Peterson Roast is with us. He is the co-founder of Bees in the D, partnering for the special Honey Sommeliers event and an educational opportunity with West Bloomfield Parks on Saturday, November 16th at Marshbank Park. And Brian, you mentioned it, that usually when you do something like this, it's being done in a different location. It's usually being done somewhere more neutral and built for these sort of business get-togethers like a hotel in Detroit. So why bring this to Marshbank Park, to one of our parks right here in the suburbs in West Bloomfield?
You know, we love, first of all, our partnership, but we want to bring it out to the different communities because we want them to understand and have an opportunity to do a very unique event like this. It's so interesting that these kind of events that are unique and allow you to learn and have a greater perspective of things are becoming more and more popular. And the other this and some of the other values that you're getting, the price is a little bit, like you said, a little bit higher, but you also have to understand that you are supporting a nonprofit, Bees in the D, and supporting the West Bloomfield Parks. And that allows us to do even more programs, especially some educational programs with the schools and with the youth there in West Bloomfield.
And take us through that element too. The educational element, of course, going to be part of this special event, but it's something that your organization, especially in your partnership with West Bloomfield Parks and our local school district, really focuses on. And when we think about this time of the year and all that we're hearing about, hey, maybe leave your leaves out there and protect the pollinators, we're not thinking really about bees when it's in fall, when we're in Halloween season and Thanksgiving coming up. But our bee population, our pollinators are still very hard at work right now. How can people in our local communities like West Bloomfield still support our pollinators when we're maybe a little bit out of their main season to shine?
It's very tempting at the end of the year to just get everything cleaned up. You know, you want your yard looking immaculate, cutting down even some of the flowers that are still blooming. Those last few flowers that are blooming, you know, the goldenrod, the asters, they are a crucial food element for our pollinators, especially going into the winter season. Most pollinators, like our bumblebees and a lot of our butterflies, they will go down in the leaf debris for hibernation. And so that's why it's important to leave those leaves or in hollow sticks. Our honeybees are a very unique species. What they do is the winter bees have emerged. They're still honeybees, but they're designed to vibrate and create friction. And that friction keeps the queen at a balmy 90 degrees all winter long, but that takes energy. And that's why they store honey all summer long in their hive, so they have food to sustain them. But luckily, for our sake, especially if you have a sweet tooth like I do, the bees produce too much honey or more than enough honey, and so we as beekeepers can then harvest. But we do leave about 80 to 100 pounds of honey in every hive for those bees to live on. And so now in the off season, this is a chance for us to learn even more about the bees and do some unique things like learn about the uniqueness of honey and how, depending on what they are foraging on, that flavor, that color, that aroma of that honey is completely unique due to where they were foraging.
Brian Peterson Roast with us from Bees in the D. Again, on your screen, you're seeing their flyer for their Honey Sommelier Tasting Event, a special event happening, bringing honey from hives like ours right here in West Bloomfield at Carner Farm over to Marshbank Park Saturday, November 16th. At Marshbank Park. You can get more information by scanning that QR code that's on your screen as we speak on civiccentertv.com. And in this interview on demand later on to learn more about this, it's happening on a Saturday evening, 6 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. $110 for residents, $130 for non-residents. Registration already underway, wbparks.org. Brian, before I let you go, we know that you're all over the Metro Detroit area and in the city with hives from Bees in the D. And in terms of all of our cities, our urban and suburban areas where your hives are located, give us the overview from the summer of 2024. West Bloomfield, good bee town,
Wow.
Good honey town?
This has been an incredible year, especially for honey production. I think a big part of that was we did get that rain, but it usually came at night. So the bees could still forage throughout the day, but all of our vegetation was very lush. And so, yes, our bees were looking great, especially the ones there at Carner Farm in West Bloomfield. It was just a pleasure to take Girl Scouts in. We also do Beekeeper for a Day with West Bloomfield Parks and show them these incredible insects and how productive they have been this year. So I'm just in the final things of just winterizing the hives, just giving them a little bit of help going into the winter season. So that we can, again, before it'll be here before we know it, spring's going to be back and those bees will start building up again and we get to start the process all over again.
More information on bees in the D and their hives all throughout our communities and the local area can be found on beesinthed.com or by following them on social media at beesinthed. Brian, thank you so much for your time as always.
It's always great, Tyler, to be with you, and I can't wait to meet the people that are excited to learn about honey in a way that you never imagined before.
Brian Peterson Roast joining us from Bees in the D. You can find more information on their Honey Sommeliers event that they're partnering with West Bloomfield Parks and Rec on by visiting wbparks.org. That's also where you can go to register for that event at this time as well. Also learn more on their Facebook page, facebook.com/beesinthed. We'll take a break on the Splash Live. On the other side, plenty more election results and discussion on some of those key races affecting us all across the greater West Bloomfield area. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Hi, I'm Lauren Azuri, the Park Naturalist Supervisor for West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations to you, Civic Center TV, for hitting 1 million views on YouTube. We really appreciate your partnership in spreading nature education in a creative way in our community. I'm Lauren Azuri, proud to be 1 in a million.
Find local municipal meetings at our program schedule on civiccentertv.com. Find when your meetings air live or when they're replaying on our Civic Center TV live stream. Find it all at civiccentertv.com and click schedule at the top of the screen. And now, back to the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe, thanking you for joining along today as we go through the latest news and information across the greater West Bloomfield area. More key election results coming through overnight in Oakland County, including right here in the Tri-Cities. The Heart of the Lakes has passed with flying colors a renewal of their current police millage that was set to expire in 2026, extending the current millage out another 8 years, out to 2034. Here for more reaction on that on the show is the mayor of Keego Harbor, Rob Kalman, joining us on the Splash Live. Mayor, thank you for being with us today.
Hey, Tyler. How are you doing this morning?
Doing all right. I'm sure the people of Keego Harbor are feeling relieved after the election finally over in their city, too. And this is a key issue in your city, renewing this police millage, because we know in the past this has really been, in some ways financially, the lifeblood of the police department and keeping them providing excellent service as they've built a reputation for in Keego.
Yeah, I'm pleased. To be honest, I expected it to pass with flying colors. It was not an increase in taxes. It was just an extension, keeping our Keego Harbor Police Department intact, being able to provide resources for the community. I would have been shocked if it went the other way with no increase.
Yeah, that seemed to have been the prevailing thought leading into this proposal being on the ballot here, was that Keego Harbor really does support its police department, and that really does go both ways. It's a unique dynamic that you have in Keego with your police department, because it's a small town and your police department really does sort of operate with that in mind. Now, how does that factor into the level of service that you're able to get from your police department in Keego Harbor?
You know, it's a small department, a small number of officers, a lot of part-time guys, and our residents tend to like knowing who their officers are, and the officers, because we're a small community, know the ins and outs of our community, and they're very visible. So I think, we should be thanking all the residents for passing the extension of the millage, the police millage, and for funding it. And it's a bit of a thank you to the officers and recognition of the hard work that they do for us.
And we know in past years when there's been financial strain in all of our communities, but especially in Keego Harbor, that there's been considerations of the future of that police department. Now, do you partner with Oakland County? Do you partner with West Bloomfield? Ultimately, it was the voters that made key decisions that have kept their police department as their police department. Why is that so important for that to be maintained for you as a resident of Keego and from your neighbors' perspectives too?
Yeah, I think residents like the visibility. They like the very, very fast response time. When you call 911 or even to the dispatch desk, they have an officer, they're there within seconds. Crime rates are very low and people are comfortable having our own police force. They like having the white SUVs driving through town. And they like just the service they get. There's the peace of mind of knowing that somebody's right around the corner when they need them. You mentioned Oakland County. They help us with the lake. Our chief, Bobby Burns, did a great job this past year, everything on the land and partnering with the sheriff's office when they did the lake patrol. We have a grant to help pay for that. And we get dispatched through West Bloomfield. We partner with them, but ultimately the voters really made it clear they want their own local police force, and they're willing to pay for it.
Rousing support from the residents, and that rousing support also comes from the city council as well. Rob Kalman, the mayor of Keego Harbor, with us on the Splash Live as their police department millage passed with flying colors in this most recent election. Unofficial results available on our website, civiccentertv.com. That takes you to a link to the Oakland County unofficial election results website, where you'll find more information on this race, which passed with a resounding majority in Keego Harbor. Rob, before we let you go, a couple more pieces of news in your community from this election. John Fletcher reelected to the city council, and a new member joining your team as well. Ronnie Dahl also elected. Your thoughts on these two new members joining your team on the city council?
Yeah, I've known them for years. It'll be a seamless. John's been working with me for 17 years or so. We know each other, we're friends, and he understands the issues. He's got a good head and shoulders, and we're lucky to have him here. And Ronnie's, she's a great person. She'll be a fun addition, and she'll be a good, another addition to help look at things from a different angle, which get some fresh ideas, which they really appreciate.
Two excellent minds that care deeply about their city joining the leadership of that city after this election, and the police department, a lot of the same going forward with that police millage renewed with 73% of the vote secured in Keego Harbor. Rob, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, 73%, that is a landslide, isn't it, in today's world?
It is. It's good to find things that we can pretty overwhelmingly agree on, especially in these times. Rob, thank you so much for your insight.
Thanks, Tyler. Have a good day.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Mayor Rob Kalman from the city of Keego Harbor. More information on their police department and all their services in the heart of the lakes can be found on KeegoHarbor.org as well. And again, I want to remind you of full election results from Oakland County. A link is available on our website as we speak, CivicCenterTV.com. You'll be able to click right through. It'll take you directly to the Oakland County unofficial results page, where you can view results from all across the greater West Bloomfield area from the 2024 presidential election cycle. Another key point in that election cycle was right next door to us at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, a millage up for the vote by the public in the greater West Bloomfield area. That also passing with flying colors in greater West Bloomfield, securing 64% of the vote affirmatively from residents of West Bloomfield that voted on that subject. Joining us for more information on how this millage will help the library catapult its services and its operations forward is the director of the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, Kathy Russ. Kathy, thanks for being with us again.
Oh, you're welcome, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you on, and congratulations on this big accomplishment for the library. This is something I know was a really critical issue for you, getting out the information about this in the past months. For those that maybe aren't familiar with what this millage will do for the library. What will this funding ultimately go for in terms of improving services, operations, and the needs of both of your branches?
Sure. So this millage represented about 46% of our overall funding. So almost half of our funding comes from this source. So we really appreciate the community approving it and helping us to keep library services going for the next 10 years. And not just going, but going in a manner in which I think the public has come to expect excellent services, excellent programs, excellent facilities. And we want to make sure that tradition continues, but we also want to do some upgrades. We have some capital projects that we need to take care of over the next 10 years because our buildings are getting older. And we want to add some more programs and more services and more, certainly ebooks to the collection and other materials as well.
That millage will be accounted for beginning in 2024 and continuing all the way through 2033 after this passage in the most recent election. An estimated $3.3 million will be collected in the first year with the millage being levied now across the community. And that's a lot of money that goes towards some really critical projects. And Kathy, we've seen a lot of improvements being made recently at the main library branch, some critical repairs over the past several months. How will those continue into the coming years? What are you sort of looking at as things that can continue to be improved at the main branch, but also over at the West Acres branch?
So I'm actually in a study room talking to you today instead of my office because they're working on the main library's roof and they're actually working right outside my office. So a lot of banging and clanging, and I didn't want to interfere with the interview. But yes, so that's going on right now. But as you mentioned, we do need to look at the West Acres roof. Both of our buildings, the main branch and the West Acres branch, will be 25 years old next year. And, just like a home or any other building, it needs to be maintained. So over the next 10 years, which is the duration of this term for the millage, we need to replace the West Acres roof. We need to replace some HVAC over at West Acres, also some components still here at Maine. At some point in the next 10 years, we're going to need to replace windows. We've been improving our technology infrastructure for the last 4 years, but we want to continue making improvements to that and make sure that we're, really tight with security as far as that goes. So those are the building improvements that we want to make. And with the passage of this millage, it will allow us to, I think, firm up that capital improvements plan and determine kind of a timeline when we can do what. And it's just wonderful to know that we have the funds will be available to do what we need to do to keep these buildings safe and secure.
Kathy Russ is the director of the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, joins us today on the Splash Live after the passage of their library millage repeal and replace proposal on the 2024 ballot. More information on the library and all of its services and events coming up on WBLIB.org, or follow them on Facebook at West Bloom LIB. And Kathy, this all comes at a really interesting time because on this ballot, it's your repeal and replace for a new millage for the library. Resounding support that's going to be helping the library with capital improvements for years to come. In August, it was very similar for West Bloomfield Parks, right next door to you. They're going to be making massive improvements at the Recreation Activity Center. How do both of these coinciding ultimately lead to a really bright future at the Town Hall complex?
Well, I can tell you, we have a great partnership with the Parks Department, and I was delighted for them when their bond passed. And then now with the passage of our millage, one of the things that Kelly Heyer, the executive director of Parks, and I have talked about is creating an outdoor programming space between our two buildings and having something there, that the community can come to and take in programs or classes or, do something. There's no plans, there's no drawings, there's nothing. It's just something that we've talked about. But I think with the passage of their bond and the passage of the library millage, we can look into that more deeply and try to do something to make that happen. Talk to the community, see what they would be interested in, and then work on that. So I think that would be an improvement for the Civic Center campus. Certainly, it would give the public another place to gather, and in a setting. I think we would make it very nice because it would be outdoors. Probably have shelter of some kind, but things, especially since the pandemic, people seem to like outdoor spaces. and want to gather in them. So another meeting space in the community potentially. So I think that'd be really cool, really fun to work on. And I think just overall on the Civic Center campus, Steve Kaplan, Debbie Binder, Terry Weingarten all were reelected. And I think it just shows that the community supports the quality of life and supports its the administration and the entities that keep the township such a great place to live. And to work in a community like that does that supports that is very gratifying. It's really wonderful. So I think with the passage of the Parks Bond and the passage of the library millage and then the election of the township folks, I think it just is a bright future for the township and demonstrates that the community supports all of our endeavors.
Your leadership, your staff going to be ultimately implementing a lot of these capital improvements and these changes at the main library in the West Acres branch for years to come. A lot of that's also going to be coming from the directive of your leadership, some new leadership coming in and some returning leadership on the library board. All 6 of its members also elected last night with a new member joining in Jennifer Taylor Boykins. How does that collaboration work between you and the library board to ultimately take this investment from the community and turn it into something that's going to ultimately go back to the community and provide them with something great for years to come?
That's a great question, and I think of it as a circle because the library board, their 3 main responsibilities are to hire the director, which they have done with me, and I hope that they won't be doing that again anytime soon. And then the second responsibility is policy, to set policy. And then the third main responsibility is the financial oversight and make sure that everything's running the way that it's supposed to be running in terms of the finances. So that's a really critical piece. We have a really wonderful treasurer, Rhonda Barnes-Orr, who was reelected. She has a financial background. Several people on our board have finance backgrounds. So they're, I think, well-positioned and savvy in terms of what to look for, and they ask really great questions. So, but back to the circle, so it starts with the board, and then I'm the director, so I report to the board, and I do my very best to keep them apprised of everything that's going on, and, there are some things that they have to approve. Then I take that to the staff, and then we do it. But then there are a lot of times that things come from the staff to me that I take to the board, or me down to the staff, get their buy-in, and then go to the board. So it's just kind of a big circle. And then, of course, you have to factor the community into that because what we primarily do, we have great ideas. I think staff has great ideas on their own. But a lot of what we do is in response to or anticipating the needs of the community. And so, so when you bring in the communities, you've got the community, the staff, library administration, and then the board. I think we all work together really well. I think we have great communication. I think that there's a lot of mutual understanding of what everybody's role is, and that's really, I think, so important and appreciated by me because the board understands what it is there to do. And it just, knock on wood, it all seems to be working.
Yeah, collaboration plays a really critical role in all of our tentpole services across the greater West Bloomfield area. Such great appreciation for the library, not only in West Bloomfield, but in the Tri-Cities as well, that also are able to tap into those services all throughout the year at both of those branches. Kathy Russ with us, the director of the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. Any final thoughts as this millage repeal and replace has been approved by the public, and you look forward to some of these big improvements coming to our 2 library branches?
Yeah, I thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. So I guess 2 things. The first thing is I want to really thank the community for their support. It is very gratifying, and we do appreciate it. We do not take it for granted. It's an ask, especially when it's an increase on the table. So we will do everything we can to just continue that tradition of excellence, but keep listening to the community and responding to the community needs. But I really want to say thank you to the community. It's really, really fantastic to see such great support. The second thing that I want to let everybody know is because, I've heard already this morning, so what are you going to do? The first thing that we want to do is place the order for those Holds pickup lockers, 24/7 Holds pickup lockers. So if you're working the late shift at Civic Center television and you don't get out till after the library closes, but there's a material that you really want, we can put it in a locker for you and you can pick it up at 10:30 at night or 2 in the morning or 6 in the morning. We want to get that going because that was a extremely highly requested service back even from 2022. And so we want to move on that. And then, like I said, kind of firm up that capital plan and start ordering ebooks because that's another thing that people really want. So kind of hit the low-hanging fruit, make the plans for the next 10 years, and then just get going.
You can follow along with the entire process on WBLIB.org on the web and also on social media on Facebook at West Bloom LIB. That's their same handle over on Instagram as well. Kathy, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks a lot, Tyler. I hope you have a good day.
You as well. Congratulations to the entire team over at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library on the passage of this millage repeal and replace that ultimately brings them into the future with those capital improvements that are only going to make our two library branches that much better for years to come. We'll take a quick break on the Splash Live. On the other side, some of those other election results that will be affecting us here in Greater West Bloomfield from the county level. We'll give you the update on that before we wrap up today's program. Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's what white people think. You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Bringing you stories and memories from West Bloomfield. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Hi, I'm Chris Fry, Park Superintendent of West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations, Civic Center TV, on 1 million views on YouTube. Thank you for all you do in the community, and thank you for having me on The Splash throughout the season to talk about activities out in the parks. Chris Fry, proud to be 1 in a million.
And now, back to the Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe, thanking you for continuing to be with us as we go through all the latest after the 2024 presidential election has come and passed, and many of those key issues and key leaders have been chosen for their future right here in Greater West Bloomfield and beyond. We've gone through a lot of the races in the Greater West Bloomfield area proper, but many races that will be affecting our community from outside or at the county level. Let's begin at the Board of Commissioners level in the Tri-Cities, the 10th District, secured by incumbent Democrat Kristen Nelson, securing her re-election with a roughly 3,000 vote victory over her Republican challenger, Greg Marinelli. That represents around the Keagle Harbor area and the Sylvan Lake area in the Greater West Bloomfield community on the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. In the West Bloomfield area on the Board of Commissioners, Marcia Gershenson, longtime commissioner in the 11th District, securing her re-election, defeating challenger Jeanette Eggert with 57.54% of the vote. Then you think about those key leaders, those highest positions at the executive level and just under at the county level, much of the same there as well. Dave Coulter re-elected as the Oakland County Executive during last evening's election, and prosecutor, same goes there. Prosecutor Karen McDonald re-elected, clerk Lisa Brown re-elected as the clerk and register of deeds, and Robert Wittenberg on the far right on your screen on civiccentertv.com in that graphic, re-elected as the treasurer of Oakland County. Once again, want to remind you, all the unofficial election results from across Oakland County are available. Just go to civiccentertv.com. Right on our homepage, front and center, top of the page, you will see a graphic with a ballot box, and it will prompt you to click on that link to view the unofficial results from Oakland County. When you get to that page, there's a bunch of different ways that you can organize to find the races that are most important to you and look through the numbers there and see more about the voter turnout, about turnout at your precinct, and even more information, of course, about all of those key races across Orchard Lake, Keagle Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield in the 2024 election. We thank you for joining along with us as we went through all the latest in the greater West Bloomfield area on this post-election edition of the Splash Live. As always, you can find us on demand on CivicCenterTV.com, on social media, Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, YouTube and Instagram at Civic Center TV as well. Big thank you to our entire team, our crew at Master Control, Calvin Brown, as well as those out in the field, Jake Schaff and Kevin McIntosh. For our entire team, I'm Tyler Kieft. Thanks for tuning in to the Splash Live.